The baby human is born to be a citizen of the world. They have an amazing innate capacity to learn any language on Earth. But if babies are born universal linguists, how do they eventually become what researchers call culture-bound language specialists? That's the question that puzzled researchers. 6-month-old Matthew sits on his mother's lap. A researcher sits opposite and keeps his attention on a colorful toy while a tape plays 2 sounds. One is ba and the other is da, a sound only used in Hindi and one which most English-speaking listeners can't distinguish from the English sound da. During the initial training period, a toy bunny is lit up in a large glass box to the side of Matthew the instant the da sound is played. When the ba sound is played, the bunny stops and Matthew turns back to the researcher. The routine continues until Matthew learns to associate the change from ba to da with the bunny. Matthew even turns his head in anticipation when the researchers delay the bunny's appearance. Matthew is now ready for the test phase of the experiment. A new tape is played, this time with 2 different da sounds that are only used in Hindi. Even though they are 2 completely different sounds, an adult who can't speak Hindi doesn't hear the difference. But Matthew immediately turns his head towards the bunny when he hears the change from one Hindi da to the other. Although he has never heard Hindi spoken, researchers recognize that at 6 months, he is still the universal listener, able to distinguish all sounds. Emma, who is 4 months older than Matthew, has come to the lab for the first time. After a similar training routine as Matthew, she's presented with the same problem of distinguishing the 2 different Hindi da sounds. But at this age, Emma, whose parents speak only English, doesn't react when there is a change from one to the other. She is more interested in the toy in front of her than the bunny. This leads the researchers to conclude that by 10 months, the baby human stops being the universal listener and, like the adult of the species, no longer hears the difference between the 2 sounds. So what happens in the baby human's brain during the period between 6 and 10 months? Why do they lose their capacity for distinguishing sounds from another language? It isn't just that the developing child loses the skill, but as the brain is sorting out the chaotic world of sound unique to their particular language, it begins to filter out sounds which aren't heard in its environment. This makes the baby human unable to hear some of the distinctions of other languages. But what happens if they are exposed to a second language during this period? That's what researchers in Pat Kuhl's lab tried to answer. Infants between the ages of 9 and 10 months are brought to the lab for a series of 12 sessions during which they are exposed to games and stories in Mandarin. Even though Mandarin is not a language 9-month Delaney is used to hearing, she is all attention, enjoying the story that Dr. Hui Mei Liu is reading. After the 12 sessions of exposure, she will be brought back for testing to see if she's absorbed any Mandarin. 9-and-a-half-month-old Matthew has completed the 12 sessions and is back for the test. He is dressed in a cap with electrodes hooked up to a computer. It will record the electrical activity in his brain in response to the sounds he hears.
What's that noise? What is that noise?
As the test begins, Matthew's attention is held by a researcher's visual entertainment so that he remains absolutely still. On a loudspeaker, two sounds are repeated. They represent two different words in Mandarin Chinese. An adult who hasn't grown up speaking Mandarin can't hear the difference between the two sounds. But Matthew has been exposed to Mandarin during the sensitive period, when most children's brains are beginning to filter out sounds that are not part of his native tongue. When his brain activity is reviewed on the computer, the two lines on the graph clearly show that he is discriminating between the two Mandarin sounds. The results of the study suggest that a child brought up with more than one language can learn the sounds of both languages. But it's the capacity to reproduce sounds that fuels the next stage of the journey towards speech.
Sleep? Did you?
Paige's mother is talking in a distinctive speech pattern that mothers the world over use when speaking to their infants.
Sleep?
It's what linguists call the universal motherese or fatherese.
Take off your pajamas. Let's get your pajamas off.
But no matter by whom it's spoken, it has distinct features.
There you go. Yeah? Let's take one arm.
A sing-song quality.
Good girl. Let's get your other arm out. There's your other arm.
The voice is pitched higher.
There you go. Does that feel good, Paige? Does that feel good?
And the sentences are reduced to short
Oh,
phrases.
you're such a happy girl this morning. Yes, you are. You're a very happy girl this morning.
Babies clearly respond to the sound of this comfort language.
Oh, here they are.
As her mother exaggerates the words, stretching the vowels, 5-month-old Paige is getting an acoustic map of her native tongue.
You are a very happy girl. Let's put your arm in. Let's put your arm in for your dress.
And by repeating the words, her mother's actually helping Paige learn the words,
Come on. Come on. Now we'll sit up and I'll do up your buttons.
emphasizing the most important ones, words that convey meaning.
Should we go see what your brothers are doing and have some breakfast?
What mothers are instinctively doing is communicating the essentials of language. And although the potential for speech is there at birth, its development depends on learning from those around. So communication is both nature and nurture. Just as adults practice singing in the shower, baby humans love to practice language in the bathtub. 9-month-old Ella is babbling. In the beginning, all babies across all cultures babble the same way. Dada, baba, mama. But by the time they reach 9 months, like Ella, the language sounds become narrower, focusing in on their native tongue. It may sound like gibberish, but Ella is hard at work. She's practicing the sounds of the language she hears around her. As she plays with the sounds, she's also listening to what she's saying. It's called mouth sound mapping.
Ella, 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 what's your name?
When her mother pronounces her name,
Baby
Ella listens.
And you say Ella, Ella. Say your name. Go Ella. That's right.
Suddenly, she is able to reproduce the sounds and rejoices.
Ella, Ella. Is your name baby?
Imitation and repetition are key to learning language.
Baby Ella.
But babbling is only one of the ways Ella expresses herself. The baby human possesses one other essential tool that is inseparable from communication: